Hello? Hi, yeah, we need to talk. I'm sorry, it's just not working out. I think we should break up. It's not me, it's not even you, it's your boring brand.
Welcome to the Boring Brand Breakup, the podcast for brands with big dreams stuck in the loop of same old boring marketing tactics. It's time to break up with your crusty dusty marketing and build a brand your customers can't help but fall in love with. I'm Janisha, your host and the chronically online 2000s rom-com obsessed founder and resident wordsmith at Good Hearted Studio, the go-to copywriting studio for do-gooder brands with a mission to make the world a better place. We're popping the cherry on this potty with a mini-series on building the foundations for a swoon-worthy brand. Why am I doing this? Because after working in marketing for years, I was so sad seeing my favorite brands disappear when I could see front and center the red flag mistakes they're making that are hurting their chances of success. In my opinion, there's no reason why a low budget should equal a boring brand. So I'm arming you with this juicy podcast series combining my best advice and recommendations, plus the brains of some of my fave brand marketing powerhouses. Even better, I'm pairing this up with a handy downloadable guide so you can take your knowledge, fresh creative ideas, and put it all into action. Okay, cell phones on silent, the show's about to begin. Let's get into it. Hello, we are at the final episode of this 5-part mini-series, and in this episode we're chatting all things content and messaging for your brand. If you haven't listened to the other 4 episodes, I highly recommend binging those too. We've chatted a lot about different marketing channels and building strong foundations for your brand, covering things like potential big red flag, deal breaker, things you might be doing in your brand that are scaring off your customers, any big mistakes with your website user experience, and things that are really actionable and easy for you to fix and implement. We've also talked about your customer journey, really rounding that out and getting to know your customers and your potential customers at every stage that they're at. Sort of what's important to them, what buying stage are they at, what are their buying behaviors, what's important to them, and how you can really nurture them through every stage. We've also talked about email marketing and socials and paid ads in a really approachable, non-icky way, because you probably don't know anything about me, but I really get the ick from paid ads. The idea of, pouring thousands of dollars into campaigns and things, I don't know, it just kind of scares me a little bit. I'm more of an organic marketing girly. Like, I love the authentic feel of that. But we dive into all things paid social and how you can work this into your marketing strategy in a really authentic way. It definitely doesn't have to feel icky. So super good episode on that. Definitely tune in. And we also chat about PR, offline events, building your community, doing things differently, fun campaigns, and how you can stand out. And this should hopefully spark some really fun, creative, fresh ideas for your brand so that you can break up with your boring, run-of-the-mill, crusty-dusty marketing tactics. You don't want to be the brand that is getting too comfortable. And the things that may have been working for you when you started your brand, if you've been around for a little bit longer, they might not be working for you now because the marketing landscape is evolving, consumers are evolving, the way that people are sold to is really different than the way it was, a few years ago. You really can't just do the same things if you want to stand out as a brand. And this is really important. And because I want to set you up for success, I want to see your brand succeed. I love do-gooder brands that have a lot of heart and mission and purpose and want to make the world a better place. But it really sucks to see good-hearted brands who want to make a positive impact disappear before you can make the impact that you're destined to, from a lack of good marketing and a lot of the time from a lack of clear messaging and understanding your audience, the content that you're picking out, just making really, simple mistakes that with an easy fix would really skyrocket your growth and put you on the right track to be the leading brand that you're dreaming of being. The heart of this is knowing what you actually want to say. If you don't have a clear mission or know your values, you're just yelling into the void about nothing. This is when brands fall into the trap of just trying to do whatever's working, sort of, following trends and having to listen to every Instagram guru or, anyone who thinks they know anything about marketing giving you a bit of advice. And it can get really overwhelming because there's a lot of noise out there. What works for one brand might not work for you. there are some things you can replicate, but not everything can be replicated. And a lot of the time, you need to be able to trust your intuition, trust your gut on what feels right for you, what feels right for your brand. And the only way that you're really going to be able to do this successfully is if you're super clear on who your brand is, what your values are, what you stand for, your mission, who you're trying to connect with, and who you're trying to help. If you don't know these things, it's going to make it so much harder for you to show up really authentically because you don't have that driving purpose behind you. And this is not to say that you're a brand with no substance. It's just that you've got to dig a little deeper and think about, well, why am I doing this? I know that you didn't start your business just to make money. Obviously, making money in your business is really important and really good. But that is not your driving force. That is not what, wakes you up in the morning and keeps you going. It's your mission. I know that myself as a copywriter, my copywriting studio, Good Hearted Studio, my driving purpose is not to sit behind my screen, frying my retinas, looking at my Mac for 12 hours a day. But what really lights me up and drives me is knowing that I'm helping amplify the voices of good-hearted brands who really want to make a difference. And I want to help brands like yours to grow. And when I really dove into, I have a background in marketing and all things sort of digital marketing and social media and content and things like that. When I really narrowed in on what I wanted to do, I know that I can help any brand thrive with the marketing principles that I have to offer. I have worked for brands like law firms or tourism organizations and just like any sort of random brand you can think of. Obviously, coming from an agency background, I have worked with a lot of different types of brands. So these marketing principles can apply to any type of business. But when I really got clear on what's important to me, I knew that I wanted to use my powers for good. I had a really long, hard think about whose voices I was really helping amplify. When I was, working for more sort of corporate brands, I was like, well, I'm just helping raise the voices of brands who are making more noise and they're not really creating like good in the world. And, they might have a different mission and that's totally fine. But it definitely lit me up a lot more inside and made me passionate about my work when I felt really aligned with my mission and how I was showing up every day. And it really shows in my marketing then. In everything that I put out, it all comes back to this mission where I want to support do-gooder brands who are doing good for people and the planet. And these are the voices who I want to help amplify because these are the brands that I love. I love to, help you bring your vision to life and your mission. So this is, of course, why I started this podcast as well, because so much of this goes further than just your copywriting and your brand messaging. There are a lot of foundational elements that need to get sorted out in your marketing to give you the best chance of success. And it really sucks when it's like such a quick fix or foundational misstep that you've made that is holding you back, like from being the leading brand that you could be, making the most positive impact. So my hope is that this podcast series will really help you if you are a go-getter, change maker, to be able to really make your mark on the world and make a positive difference, make the world a better place. So with that in mind, I really want to chat today about nailing your brand messaging. I want to chat about having a clear mission, a clear vision, and knowing your values. Essentially, you want to think about your brand like it is a living, breathing person. If your brand was a person, what would they stand for? What brands would they shop from? Like, who do they support? What do they do on the weekend? What's important to them? You want to think about all these elements and really put some life behind your brand. A lot of the time, this probably aligns with your personality, and this is the same type of people you're going to attract to your brand and in your community as well. So when you're really clear on this vibe, like attracts like, and people are like, oh, I love that. That feels so me. Like, that's who I want to connect with. And being really clear on this means that you're attracting the right people to your brand. And, don't be afraid to alienate some people. Like, you don't want every person in your community because, one, there's so many people in the world, but not everyone is going to align with your values and your mission, and that's okay. But it just makes it so much stronger when people do really connect with your brand. In my first business, which was a vegan waffle business, I myself am vegan. I started this business and it was like a platter box, brunch box company. And I started it because I really saw a gap in the market. It was a bit of a burnout induced passion project because I just left my agency marketing job. And it helped me fall in love with marketing again at a time when I was super, super burnt out by just, doing marketing for brands who I didn't feel aligned with. And essentially, I started this business because there were so many, platterbox catering type companies out there, but it all kind of felt like they were missing something. One major thing was that if they had plant-based or vegan options or something, they were always an afterthought. It was always like, some sad carrot sticks or something like that. And like, that's not great. That's not fun. And I'm someone who loves like photo-worthy moments and things that are Instagrammable and really beautiful to put on my story or my feed. And I love details. And this is what I really thought behind the heart of my business. I wanted to bring this to other people who I knew were in the same boat. And I grew this business really quickly. We grew a community of over like 900 people on Instagram. And that was only in like under 3 months. Like, it was kind of insane, the community that we got behind it. And I did this all organically. Like, I wasn't doing any ads or anything like that. I was just super clear on who I wanted to connect with, what was important, and making my product really good, nailing out really strong foundations. I understood the people who would buy my boxes better than anyone. My grazing boxes were 100% vegan as a forethought and created to be delicious and Instagram worthy AF. They were not created for Susie, who would rather make her own cheese platter, or for Jim, who can find something cheaper. They were for Sally, who has dealt with the vegan option of a few carrot sticks at every event, or James, who wanted to plan his vegan girlfriend the most Pinterest perfect anniversary. I understood my customer and filled a gap in the market. Most grazing box businesses would only have a pathetic excuse for a vegan option, if one at all. Sure, there were a handful of other plant-based grazing box businesses, but no one was doing it like me. I tuned out the noise and really focused on the vision that I had for my business. I really wanted it to be Pinterest, picnic aesthetic, totally gram-worthy, things you wanted to take photos of. So I really made sure I invested in the visual content and did ideas that no one else was doing for my content shoot and things like that. Instead of just doing a stock standard like, yep, here's a picture of my product, I would really lean into the whole creative concept and help my customers envision the kind of lifestyle they could be a part of by buying these grazing boxes for their next event, which creates a little bit of FOMO, but also helps align with the right customers who are like, yes, that's my vibe. This is for me. Also, being passionate about sustainability and saving animals, I made sure that every business decision that I made had this in mind so that I could connect with people who shared the same values. I never worried about who this might scare off, because anyone who was scaring off wasn't going to be my ideal customer anyway. Like, they weren't going to buy from me, so it kind of didn't matter. And more than just saying, please buy my boxes, I wanted to create a thriving community. I wanted to give people a reason to be part of the journey and to follow my socials and things like that. So I really focused on looking at the big picture, sharing, instead of just thinking like, yep, grazing boxes. I thought of the feeling and where people are at when they're doing this. A big part of catering related things is it's about events, it's about community, and that's about connection. People who would enjoy a sort of platter like this, which is really like beautiful and well thought out, really appreciate aesthetics and they really appreciate details, and they probably like hosting parties and things like that. So things like sharing cocktail ideas and tablescape ideas and things like that, and inspiration really helped connect with my ideal audience and gave people a reason to follow. I also really connected with the vegan community that I am a part of and shared about the idea that I had in the business I was launching. And because this is such a strong, supportive community, I got a lot of backing from people in here who really wanted to support something where they felt really seen. And that was really a strategic way for me to connect with my ideal customer. So, speaking about brand messaging and content, the heart and soul of a successful content strategy is knowing your audience, creating a vibe, giving people a reason to follow you, investing in quality visual content, not being afraid to alienate some people, developing a clear brand voice, focusing on community and value, finding a way that you can combine ethics and aesthetics, and shouting your values from the rooftop. This all comes down to knowing who you are and how you want to show up, and this will help tie together everything in your cohesive marketing brand ecosystem. So in terms of a framework, when you're thinking about your brand messaging, to think about your mission, you really want to think, what is your purpose? Why am I putting this product out in the world? Who is this for? Why would they want this? And who am I trying to help? Even if it really feels like you're like, oh, well, this is not even something that people need. It's like there always is. It might not feel like, your essentials are like, food, water, shelter kind of way, but everything serves its purpose and is a need in some way. And sometimes people aren't even aware of that yet until you can really show them. And it makes their life easier knowing that someone has created something that's exactly for them. An example that I love to chat about is my favorite jeans brand. It's called Peach Shade the Label. And Bella, who founded the brand, she created this brand a few years ago now. I discovered it in 2020. And she creates jeans that have no waist gap. So they are sized to fit your waist if you have a smaller waist and like a bigger hips and a bigger bum. And they're the best jeans ever because if you have this kind of body type, you would know how hard it is to find jeans that fit you right. And when I discovered this brand, I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. And in all her messaging and everything, she really story tells with the way that she started this brand because she was really having the problem of, crying in change rooms because jeans didn't fit her. And she really felt like there was something wrong with her when it's the clothing industry. It's the way that things are made. And so she really wanted to solve this problem. And so her mission isn't, saving the planet and, solving world hunger or anything like that. But it's about body positivity. It's about helping like women feel good in their skin and feel confident. And she's really solving a problem in that way, which is so powerful as well. And so, of course, in terms of needs, you can wear any type of pants or something like that. But having clothes that you feel good in, that is so strong and powerful as well. And that is definitely a problem that people have. And what I love about Bella is that she really focused on knowing her vision and what she wanted with this brand. And you can just tell from the way that she shows up in any part of her marketing, she's really nailed a lot of this down. She's really nailed her vision and she really focuses on growing her community because she knows the community is the heart of her brand. And she is no stranger to doing offline events and little activations and connecting with her customers and asking for people's feedback on products and, taking people's feedback and reviews and everything on board so that she can make it the best possible for her community. And she's definitely built a sort of cult-like community. These are not, cheap jeans to buy. They're definitely an investment, but I own like 3 or 4 pairs of these jeans and maybe like a pair of shorts. They are amazing. And I can't think how many times before I had these that I would really I hated wearing jeans. Like it just was terrible. I felt bad about myself and it just kind of ruins your day. Whereas I can't think of time since I've discovered this brand where it's just like, it's one thing off my list. Like I don't even worry like, oh my gosh, my jeans aren't going to fit me. They're going to be uncomfortable or something like that because they always do. And it's just amazing. And I really love that so much that you don't have to be solving every problem in the world. And you also just need to be really clear on what your mission, your vision, your values are, what's important to you. And it's going to really direct every step that you take in your business and how your brand shows up. And with your vision, you really want to think, what future are you working towards? If everyone in your ideal audience knew about your brand, like what kind of change impact would that make? And with thinking about your values, you want to know what principles are guiding your brand because this will help be your guiding light in times when, in business things are tough. And if you don't know why you're in this, it's going to make it a lot harder for those hard days. Essentially, you want to distill a lot of this into a bit of an elevator pitch, a really memorable sentence. And a lot of the time it's like, we help X people achieve X, or we help X people achieve Y through blah, blah, blah. And if you can't narrow down your sort of why we do what we do into something like that, you probably need to go back and do a little bit of work on your messaging and so that you can be really clear, because guaranteed if you are not clear on your brand messaging and your vision, your values, your customer has no idea, because if you don't know, they definitely don't know. So the best way is like, think, if I was explaining this to a 5-year-old, would they understand what I'm talking about? Or would they be like, okay, I'm going to go play with my Bratz dolls now? Another part of this is once you've got your messaging and your vision, your values, all those things, you want to move into your tone of voice. This is the way that you sound, and it's got all the elements of your personality. It, directs whether you come off a bit more friendly and approachable and laid back, or if you're, more of an authoritative leader and you want to position, how you want to position your brand plays a lot into this too. So you definitely want to think about where you want to be positioned in the market and how you want your community to be able to interact and engage with you. A fun way to do this is to think like what 5 words you would use to describe your brand versus 5 words you would not use to describe your brand. And an exercise I do when I do a brand voice guide or brand identity things for my clients in my copy studio is I ask all these kinds of questions, and then I do a sort of who we are and who we aren't. So it helps really direct being super clear and confident on like, yes, we might be this, but we aren't this. And that's the same way as, I'm someone who in my business, like I am, a little bit cheeky and a little bit fun, and I like to weave my personal experiences into the way that I explain things to do with marketing and like big concepts and stuff like that to make it feel more digestible and a little more fun. But this definitely doesn't mean that I'm unprofessional. I don't know what I'm talking about, and this is something I've really solidified in my tone of voice so that it feels more friendly. But if you're, a different type of, like if you were, another copywriter, but you had a different vibe to you, that approach might not work for you, and you might have a different mission and different values. So you might choose to show up in a different way, which better resonates with the type of people you're trying to attract. So once you've got, your messaging, your values, your vision, and your tone of voice sorted down, what you want to say and how you want to sound, now it's time to put your content out there. There are so many different types of content that you could be putting out there, and you really want to match these to different customer stages, like whether they're in an awareness stage or consideration, or they're making a decision, anything like that, and work to sort of nurture your audience through these different stages. Some different types of content that you can think about are blogs or social media, video content, long form video or short form video, emails, offline events, like any sort of content that goes into that. There are a lot of different moving parts and elements. The best thing that you can do is be repetitive. You definitely want to repurpose everything, and you don't need to be reinventing the wheel. I know that's such a buzzwordy thing to say that marketing people say all the time, but it's so true. You really just need to be speaking about the same core things all the time, and don't even worry about being repetitive, because guaranteed people are not remembering. Like, everyone has goldfish memory. They need to hear things a million times before they remember. And like, you have new people coming and, noticing your brand every day, and they need to be knowing these things too. So it means, introducing yourself, telling your story and your core values, your mission, all these things. You want to keep saying it all the time. And it feels repetitive to you because you live and breathe your brand every day. So you're a bit sick and tired of it, and you hear it all the time. It doesn't feel interesting. But to other people who don't know you, it is super, super interesting, because a lot of the time where they are at is probably at a place where they are having the same problems that you used to have. So being able to hear your transformation and your story, or the way that you have achieved that transformation story for other people who have shopped your product or used your service or whatever it is, can really help them connect with you and be like, yes, this is the brand for me, and really succeed. With this in mind, when you're creating content, you definitely want to think about your customer journey stage. So if you haven't listened to episode 3 where I chat with Brie about all things customer journey, definitely listen to that episode, because we break down customer journey and all the different stages and what will really help direct your content in that episode. But with your content, you really want to use storytelling techniques to connect emotionally with your audience. A lot of consumer buying behaviors are made based on emotion. Of course, there are principles that go into like, you're researching to find your best option and all these things. But a lot of the time when you're exploring different options, for example, if someone's looking for a copywriter, they might look at 10 different copywriters. They might connect with me because there's something specifically in my story and my approach that really resonates with them. And they're like, you are the perfect person to do this, because you're going to totally understand my vision and what I want. And this is the same thing in your brand. You want to be telling your mission, your vision, your values, and weaving this really like in a fun way throughout your content. Like it doesn't really just need to be you like telling it in a really cut and dry way. Like do it in like a fun way and make it exciting, because a lot of the time people will choose who they work with, who they buy from based on the vibes, based on the emotions. And it almost doesn't matter then what the price point is, because that definitely is a factor that comes into play. But if they're choosing between like, you know, for example, like with the jeans, if I was choosing between Peach A jeans or another generic jeans brand, I'm going to choose Peach A's, not only because they, you know, solve the problem of what I'm wanting, but because I love the brand, I love the mission and the vision, and I'm emotionally connected to it as well. So going and shopping from another brand feels like cheating on that brand. And that's how you want your customers to kind of feel, that if they go and shop from your competitors, that they're low-key cheating on you, and that you're going to be like, wow, I saw you shop from this other brand. Do you not love me anymore or something? Okay, we don't want to be in that desperation energy, but you know what I mean. And also, when you're thinking your content, you also want to make your content work harder for you. And the best way to do this is to repurpose your content. So a lot of the time, it's really good to have a hero piece of content, whether that's, you know, a video, a podcast, a blog, something like that. And this is usually a bit longer form. And then this is what you can repurpose across all these different channels. You know, turn it into Instagram carousels, turn it into Instagram reels, turn it into stories and TikToks and blogs and emails and all these things, because for one thing, these are all different touch points to connect with your customer, and you need to be reiterating this messaging over and over and over. And I know it's going to feel like it sucks, but you really need to do that, because people need to know your story and they need to hear a lot and be nurtured through this process. And nurturing takes time. So when you're thinking of your content mix, you definitely want to be thinking customer journey, diversifying your content, and making sure that your vision, your values, everything really shines through, but do it in like a fun, different way. Like you can think it outside of the box with your content. You don't need to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. In fact, I would very much recommend not doing what everyone else is doing, because there are some tactics that are tried and true and they work. But the best way to stand out is to take a leap, try something else. And also remember with your content that there is no one way to do things. So what worked for someone else might not work for your brand. And you don't want to be a follower. You don't want to be someone who's just following what everyone else is doing. You want to be a tastemaker who is carving their own path, and that other people are like, wow, that's so good. This is also really a good way to avoid copycats. There will always be copycats. But if you're always one step ahead and doing something different, then you don't really have to worry about it, because once they catch up to you, you're like, okay, well, I'm already doing some other fun stuff, so it doesn't even matter. And it's better to be the one being copied than the one doing the copying. Some common mistakes that people make with their content that can really, you know, just make the process so much harder than it needs to be is not being consistent with your messaging and with the timeliness of things. So if you know, on your socials and your emails show up once and then never again, it's like you're ghosting your audience a little bit. No one likes that. Like, we want to know when we're hearing from you and like feel a little bit consistent and know what to expect. And if you're doing anything like a series, like that's a really good way for people to know what to expect. And just to keep things really simple. Again, we don't want to be playing hard to get. We don't want to be ghosting our customers and our audience who we love. With this in mind, we also don't want to overcomplicate things. We want to keep it really simple. Like I said, we want to repeat the same messaging. And as much as that's going to feel repetitive on your part, if you look for different new ways to find this feel fresh and exciting in campaigns and things like that, you won't have an issue at all. But there's really no need to make things harder than they need to be. As much as I'm saying, you know, keep things fresh and exciting, I don't mean like with the core foundational parts of your brand. I mean with the actual just, you know, the outside things. It's like we're not changing who we are on the inside. We're just changing the way we're telling that story, not the actual messaging itself. So if you've been feeling a little lost and all over the place about your brand and how it sounds, and you're just feeling like something's missing and you're not really connecting with your customers, and I don't know, it's all feeling a little bit stale, and it's time to break up with those same old boring marketing tactics, I hope that this episode really helped you, you know, start to think about what is truly important to you as a brand, how you're wanting to show up, and what's really important to you, and how you can work on these foundational elements and really show up as the brand that you want to be and make the positive impact that you're trying to make. That is all I have for today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. The other 4 episodes of this 5-episode mini-series on breaking up with your boring brand are out now, ready for you to binge. If you love this ep, please share it with a friend. You can gently tell them it's the wake-up call their marketing is feeling a bit boresome, or pretend it's totally unrelated. If you can't get enough of me, connect with me on socials at Goodhearted Studio. I love to chat and yap and help raise the voices of good-hearted brands with a mission to make the world a better place. Okay, love you, bye.